सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्तं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमो नमः। यथा अग्नेर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता हि या सर्वविद्यास्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। Dear brother Swamijis, brahmacharins and all the devotees, I have got a great chance today to speak to you all on spiritual life on a holy day like this, being the birthday of one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Yogananda. So, it's a great chance for me to be with you and to speak to you about the spiritual life. As all of you know, in this age, Sri Ramakrishna happened to come along with his team of assistants, Sri Sharada Devi, Swami Vivekananda, and all the direct disciples and all the household disciples. As you know, in those two books, it's very well written. God lived with him and they lived with him. So these two books regarding the direct disciples and the household disciples, we are very well informed. As you know, Sri Ramakrishna himself came first in the form of, as he himself says, in the form of light. He came from above and, as you all know, passed through that Saptarishi Mandala, where the 7 sages were absorbed in spiritual meditation, and one of them happened to be Swami Vivekananda. So as the divine child made up of divinity itself, the Jyoti, as it came down, it just hugged one of them, and that happened to be Swami Vivekananda. And he opened his eyes, and this divine child told him, I am going down, you please come down. He had to agree, and he agreed. So that is how we get Swami Vivekananda down. So also, as we know, apart from this, Sri Ramakrishna was not born out of human connection. He was only completely divinely born, as you know. After this incident, Mother Chandramani Devi, as you know the story, was just walking before the Shiva temple in Kamarpukur. There she saw the temple was filled with Jyoti, divine light, and she was looking at the light, and the light travelled towards her, and it entered her and filled her with the divine light, and she was so happy and filled with the joy, and thus she could not bear it, and she fell down, Chandramani Devi, near the Shiva temple. As you know, I am just repeating the story that you know, all of you. And thus her friend came, helped her, lifted her, and thought that she is suffering from, perhaps some bhoot or pret must have caught her, as usual, as the normal people think, and sprinkled water on her and all that. And when she became a little normal, she told that the divine light from Shiva's temple, it came, divine Jyoti, and travelled towards me, and it filled me. I am filled with that divine Jyoti. That's why what Mother Chandramani Devi told, and further she said, thus I feel, now I am in the family way. So she was not born in the usual way where the parents meet. It was in a divine way, as, for example, Sri Ramachandra, how the Havan, Yajna took place, and how the prasad was distributed and all that. In the same way, in a very divine way, Sri Ramakrishna entered Mother Chandramani Devi from the light of Shiva's temple. And from that day onwards, she felt she is in the family way. So, we hear this part of Mother's story, and there, as you know, all of you, husband Kshudiram, he had gone to Vishnu Gaya for offering Pindadanam for the ancestors. Normally that is the place where Hindus go and offer to the ancestors Pindadanam there. So he was with all devotion offering his offerings there on the Vishnu Pada. There is a place where the Pada is there and that is turned. That the foot is expected to be the foot of Lord Vishnu himself, where if it is offered, it goes directly to the Lord and to the ancestors, etc. So in that way he had gone and he was happily performing all those things there when Mother Chandramani Devi had this experience here. Thus at night again, when Lord Shiva blessed Chandramani Devi here, Mahavishnu blessed him, Kshudiram, there, and he had the darshana of Mahavishnu himself, and he was so happy and he did pranam, and Mahavishnu told him, I want to come to your house. And Kshudiram was taken aback. He folded his hands and told, Maharaj, you please don't come to my house. I am a very poor man. How can I look after you? The universal Lord, you come to my house. How can it be? Please don't come to my house. Folded his hand and told. But as usual, Mahavishnu smiled and told, don't worry yourself, I'll make all the arrangements when I come I look after myself, don't worry. So like that, he disappeared. So these are the two stories that happened. One there, one here. When the Supreme Being came in a divine way, thus we find Sri Ramakrishna being born, and when Kshudiram came back from Vishnugaya to the house in Kamarpukur, Mother Chandramani told all the stories to him, and he in turn told his story there, and he told, I think something is going to happen. But anyway, let us not talk about this to others in the village. People will think these people have become old and they are talking all sorts of things. So like that, let us keep quiet and watch what is happening. Thus, we find Gadadhar being born in due course, and how he is being brought up and all that. We know the story. So Sri Ramakrishna comes in a divine way, not in the ordinary way. So that is a special way in which the Lord happened to appear in this avatara, Sri Ramakrishna avatara. In a humble, simple way, the Divine Being happened to appear. So thus, we find the enactment of the whole drama taking place, and Sri Ramakrishna, how he slowly grows and in his own way spreads the great divine message to the people from the very childhood itself. And as we find that as Sri Ramakrishna was born, in the same way Sharada Devi was also born, as you know the story. Mother was sitting under the tree, tired, and the divine child came and told that I want to come to your house and all that, the story which you must have read. So Sharada Devi was also born like that, and even when they were children, when they met in a temple, as parents have their way of joy or fun, and the children are asked, whom are you going to marry? So the small child of 2 years or so, when it was asked, she Sharada Mani showed, there, that boy, Gadadhar, I am going to marry him. Even when she was a child, she told. Similarly, when Gadadhar was asked, he also told, that the child, Sharada, I am going to marry her. So, from the very childhood, they were divine, and it was getting revealed through their lives. So thus we find the great avatara was slowly getting enacted, and thus how we find Naren was also being born, who is Swami Vivekananda, who becomes later, and the other direct disciples. It's all slowly getting revealed, the household disciples, and for the building of the temple, and all that whole Leela was slowly being enacted, and Sri Ramakrishna slowly moves forward, and thus we find the whole story of getting of this Ramakrishna avatara getting revealed, and thus we have the great joy in our lives to go through these divine stories and fill ourselves with the joy of spiritual inspiration as we, in our own humble way, move forward in our spiritual lives. So similarly, in my own humble life, when I happened to study in 1939 in one of the high schools in Mangalore, and then after the British matriculation, everything in English, that was finished, and then after the examination, I came to know that I have passed the examination. What next am I to do? I was thinking. And then the story revealed itself like this. In our hostel, the great book of Sri Ramana Maharshi, Pictorial Ramana, a thick book of life of Sri Ramana Maharshi with pictures, more pictures, and life in a short nutshell. In that way it came. And the boys, as they went through it, almost all of them told, as usual, Yaro dadigara irkanga. Chalo. So they pushed forward the book. They were not interested in this. Only when it came to me, it fixed me. This is what we call Purva Karma, the carried forward noble tendencies that we have that gets revealed when we are just becoming adults. So thus, at the age of 20, it came to me by my Purva Prarabdha. As I think I told you on the other day when I talked, Swami Vivekananda quotes the quotation from Manudharma Shastra. Eka eva suhrit dharmaha nidhanepi anuyati yaha sharirena samam nasham sarvam anyathi gacchati. Like that. That is to say, Eka eva, only one, suhrit means good friend. We have got only one good friend in our life, in our lives. Eka eva suhrit dharmaha. All the noble activities, divine activities that we have done, that all gets accumulated and it helps us to take us forward in spiritual life, in noble life. So, everything else except this, our body, our parents, our name, fame, wealth, everything gets destroyed except this one. Eka eva suhrit, good friend. Suhrit. Eka eva suhrit dharma. The noble tendencies that we have accumulated. Eka eva suhrit dharma nidhanepi anuyati yaha. When the body falls down, it travels along with the jivatma to fix us where we are to take birth and all that, our future, how it should reveal itself. In that way, it slowly gets revealed. So, as Swami Vivekananda again says that whole purpose of living is to live in this way. Be good, do good. Think good things and then do good things, help others to be good, and in that way, in the noble way, in the dharmic way, move forward in life. That is the way how we can direct our future in a spiritual way. So, in that way, perhaps I must have done something earlier. So, at the age of 20, this great Brahma Purusha, his life, it came through this book. In the whole hostel, as far as I know, there was no one else interested in this book except a Dadiwala. So, it's only, it caught me. Are, what a great chance in my life that I have got the message of a great man of God realization, Brahmavit Purusha like this. So my only purpose in life now is to immediately, as soon as possible, just run away to him and be with him. This was the message that book gave me. Thus, within 2 days, I just bundled up everything, my small things, and without telling anyone, I just took the Madras mail. Evening it starts in Mangalore, in the morning it reaches Madras. Across the South India it goes, Madras mail. So I sat in that and moved forward and thinking of the great chance that I have got of meeting one Brahma Purusha and all that, and not the other details. Where to go, when to get down, where to get down, all those things I was not thinking. So fortunately, in my compartment, there happened to be a ayah who was traveling. After eating themselves, the family, and looking after them, I was looking in a corner. So he asked me, looked at me and asked, "Nee engada pore?" Like that. I was, as usual, as I am small built now, that also I was small built. So, in the corner I was sitting, I just told, I am going to Ramanashram. Ennathukku appo Tamil theriyadhu enakku. Kannada mathram theriyum, but by common sense I can understand. So, I am going to Ramanashram, I told. Then he told, "Enna aayirukku unakku? What happened to you?" I told, "Onnu aavala enakku. Na ange pore avarkitta irukkiradukka." Then he had a little better perhaps understanding about me. Then he asked the practical question, which I was not thinking. Enge erangonu, do you know where to get down and leave this mail train and enter into the narrow gauge? Do you know that? I told, I am sorry, I have never thought about that. I would have gone further in the mail. He told me, don't sleep at midnight when this goes to Villupuram, get down there and go to the next train line, the short gauge. It is there, narrow gauge that is there, and thus you have to go to Tiruvannamalai where this great sage is living. All those information he gave me. If not, I would have travelled I don't know where in Madras Mail in the joy of meeting the great saint without knowing working out the details. So by Lord's grace, I took to that train and went to Tirunamale by that. Next day morning, as it was becoming morning, I could see the big gopurams, the 4 gopurams and walls and all that from a distance. I was so happy. Now, today I am going to meet that holy man at whose feet I am going to offer myself. So in that way, but it took longer time, perhaps about 1 o'clock or so. It happened, then the train stopped there in Tirunamale. Then I just asked for a Tonga Bala, and he came, and I then just took that and went to Tirunamale. And there, I alighted there, and the Tonga Bala happened to be a Muslim. So I told him, can you please show me in this complex where that holy man is staying? He told, yes, I can do it. So he took me inside. Of course, it was at that time mud buildings and all that, not Pakka buildings, in 1939 at that time. Later on, of course, Pakka new buildings came. So he told me, in this hall he is sitting, that is the Maharishi, like that he showed me. So I came back and gave him, I had at that time also a cap, Qadar cap. I was a follower of Gandhiji. So Gandhi cap and all the other things, my belt and my extra clothes, extra money, everything I gave to him. He was looking at me, what happened to this fellow? And then one set of cloth I kept, the rest all I gave him, you take this all. So thus, I just took bath, changed my clothes, and went there and reached the hall in which he was sitting. Ramana Maharshi was sitting along with a few devotees who were receiving in the tonne prasadams, the fruits that has come to the ashrama. It was all being cut and then distributed. So he was distributing to all, and he gave me 1 tonne also. I was so hungry, at night I have not eaten, and thinking about this great chance that I have got in my life in that way. And so I was hungry, thirsty, and I took bath, and when I went there, did pranam, and just leaned against the wall nearby, about 5-6 feet away. And he was sitting on the chair, and I did not talk anything. I just did pranam and sat there. So he was looking at like that, and when I sat, he opened his eyes brightly like that and began to continuously look at me without a wink. And I was also very happy to look at him. He was looking at me and I was looking at him without winking, like that he was looking. I was so happy. As soon as I came, this holy man, he is just directing his blessings on me. Like that I was feeling. And it went on for a few minutes, maybe 5-6 minutes or like that. Then my understanding is he came to know by that inner variety of knowing where I come from, why I come from, everything. He was just looking like that without asking a word. He must have understood in the spiritual way, and then he kept quiet and became normal. So then I felt it's a great chance that I got to be blessed by a holy man like this as soon as I came. Then afterwards, of course, the usual way of development in the ashrama took place. I went inside because I was hungry, I wanted to eat something, and at that time it was all mud walls and just not pakka buildings and all that. So I went inside. Sarvadhikari, his brother, was sitting there, and the other cooking mothers, they were all sitting there. I told, I am very hungry, please give me something to eat. Then of course they gave something, and then we talked and then told, okay then, you be here. So they allowed me to stay, and I happened to stay there. And they of course took me to the kitchen section to help them with the ordinary things of cooking. So washing vessels and that and this, everything I was made to do. I told them also, every morning there was like here, big idlis are given to all devotees, whoever comes. So for idli we have to grind. So 4 o'clock my duty was to grind idli for about 50 to 100 people like that. The guests, whoever came, everybody was given idli and chutney. So one party used to come, and she used to help me, and I used to, about 4 o'clock. That is over, and one day morning at about 4:30 or so, I was sleeping outside because it's very warm. So I was called to the kitchen, and I went there, and near the chutney grinding place, Maharshi was sitting with the kaupinam on, and when I went, he told, come, nee rubbu na taldre. So I had the great chance of grinding. Maharshi was just, he was helping me in that way, but I had to be careful because old hands, I must be slowly doing that. So as it was being done, he put salt and chilies and whatever is to put, everything he was putting in the middle. And then, when it was over, salt and everything put in, then he took it up, put it in a vessel and went to the kitchen. And in a big karandi, he put oil and everything for seasoning and brought that. As the mustards were jumping about, he brought them and put into the chutney and then just mixed that. And a few people who were sitting around, he gave the chutney a little. And then he should not again, like that, from above. He put the chutney from above. And then after tasting, he asked, everybody, how is chutney? Everybody, he asked. Everybody kept quiet out of respect to him. Then he himself asked, chutney idli kekada? like that, smilingly he asked everybody. Of course, everybody kept quiet. That was the first holy association with the Maharishi that I had. And afterwards, of course, he went his small table putting on, and I was seeing where he was going. He was going to the vegetable cutting room. And when that is all over, then we came to the common hall, as according to the morning way of their discipline, that Veda Vidyalaya, the Vadhyayar with his students, he came, devotees all came, and then after Vedic chanting and all that, songs in Hindi, Kannada, Malayalam, Telugu, all that is over, and then everybody began to keep quiet and meditation went on. As meditation went, it was all quiet everywhere. Then after some time, one of the administrators of the ashrama came and then asked Swamiji, Bhagavan Ramana, Bhagavan, like that they called him. There was no answer. Twice, thrice, louder and louder he called, but there was no answer. Lastly, when it was too loud, enna, like that, he heard it. He was completely absorbed in the introspective meditation. Then afterwards, of course, he just, enna, he told like that and began to speak. So thus, the daily routine was morning, evening, it was going on. After all the programs are over, he will sit and he will meditate and all that. This is one of the Mahatmas with whom I had happened to be. And of course, afterwards, my people came to know that I am there because I ran away. Madras from my uncle came, car came, that, everything. Then I had to go back to Madras, and then they told in the Paitamela today, study. So then I was admitted in the engineering, and then again my good karma will not leave me. In Madras, in Mandabelli, my house, Ramakrishna mission there, and Kapaleshwara temple there, all that. Though daily I am going to my engineering educational center, and on the way I used to go to the center and meet our brahmachari brothers, Swamijis and all that. That in my house people didn't know all that. Then I began to read the complete works of Vivekananda, where he touched me again. You have wasted your life by eating and drinking by this program, so many lives. Can't you spend one life for the sake of God realization alone? Something like that, it comes in the complete work somewhere. Then again, my inspiration came. What a truth. Now if I spend for learning, studying, then earning, everything, my whole life will be finished like that. But best thing is give second flight. Like that I thought. And then I opened the story again at home. Engineering is very difficult to study. So they thought, this is a mad fellow. Like that. Then after some time, fortunately Holy Mother's disciple, Swami Asheshanandaji Maharaj, was in the student's home. He was the warden. So I used to go to him and talk to him, and thus my knowledge about spiritual life, Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, all that increased, and my thirst to run away again to Bangalore, it became too much. Then one day I took some money from my brother's pocket and just ran away to Bangalore, Basavangudi Ashrama in 1940, when Swami Tyageshanandaji Maharaj was there as the president. He was a great Sanskrit scholar, Madras Presidency College, and then Swami Brahmanandaji's disciple in Madras. He met him in 1916 or so. So like that, I happened to be with him, continuing my spiritual and scriptural education, then as usual doing service everywhere. And also at that time, Sir C.V. Raman used to come, and the Lady Raman used to tell me, Brahmachariji, when you come to collect a subscription to the Science Institute, please come to our house, have your lunch with us. So sometimes I used to go there, and Sir C.V. Raman used to come, and he used to tell, my wife has that temple, that corner, wooden corner, that's her temple. My temple is where I do the truth research, that's my temple there. So like that, our temples are different, and our ways of worshipping are different. Like that, we have nice talks with him and all that. So, that story is over. I began to improve and all that. Later on, as usual, I had the chance of going to Sringeri Jagadguru Pitha, where again my good karma was there. Chandrasekhara Bharati, another great Brahmavid Purusha, you must have heard of him. He was a great Brahmajnani. He used to be like a madman. In just opposite the temple, normally the sadhus used to stay, and there day and night he will be reading and thinking and meditating and like that. Sometimes no clothes, no clothes, like that. He was doing his sadhana there. And thus, after a long time, he happened to get the realizations, and he had the knowledge. Sometimes when people used to come and meet him, he used to say from the room itself to his assistants, so and so is coming to meet me, please tell them that I am not free to meet them. Like that. He had already the divine knowledge revealing himself. Then he used to order the yajnas to be done, and he used to direct the Brahmins to do all that. And one Mahayajna, in his story, in his life, it is all there. Mahayajna was being done. After the yajna was over for a few days, he was directing everything was done very well. Then finally he told, when the Purnamati at midday was being offered, and afterwards he told, normally when this happens, Purnamati, after the yajna, heavy rain comes. He told like that, it seems. Then afterwards, 5-10 minutes, the black clouds came all over, and then heavy rain began to flow, as he told. So, he was a great Brahma Purusha like that. That was the second Brahma Purusha. I had the darshan, and the third one was my own Gurudev, Holy Mother's disciple, Swami Virajanandaji Maharaj in Belur Math. When I went there in 46 to take initiation, Brahmacharya all together in one. And then 1950, again I had the great chance, luck of getting initiated into sannyasa by Swami Virajanandaji himself. So like that, a few months I was there, and I had the chance of meeting him daily, have a conversation and all that. You must have seen his book. So, in that way, that is the third Brahma Purusha. And then the two more are again our Swami Shantanandaji Maharaj, Holy Mother's another disciple. He was in Belur Math, and his life you people must have read and all that. I met him and took his blessings. And the fifth, the last one was Swami Jagadanandaji Maharaj, who translated the Katha, what is that? Leela Prasanga, yeah. From Bengali to English, the great master, in 2 volumes. He translated it. He was also a great Brahma Purusha, and he also passed away in Vrindavan itself, where I used to do the seva in Vrindavan hospital. And when the time came to give up he knew, and he was filled with that divine aspiration. And whenever I happened to be pujari for some time in Vrindavan, and at about 11 o'clock he used to come to the temple. Thakur, ma. Like that he will come in an inspired way, divine way, and come and like a statue he will stand there. Like that, the great joy, and fall down and lie down for a time there, and I used to be aside. So in that way, I used to see him, and we had the great chance of he's taking Upanishad classes Brihadaranyaka Upanishad for us, and since we are all hospital service brahmacharis and sadhus, so we had no time during the daytime. So 5 to 6 in the morning was the Upanishad class, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and the old man used to sit straight and take the classes very nicely. And also he knew that he is going to give up his body in Vrindavan itself. So one night about 10:30 he was very badly ill, and then our present President Maharaj, Swami Atmasthanandaji Maharaj, was a brahmachari at that time there, doing his service, and he was just massaging his legs becoming cold, and he was loudly telling, "What are you doing? Do you remember Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma?" Like that. We were all taken aback. And his mind was there. As he was giving up the body was becoming colder, and he was shouting like that. And with that knowledge of Sachidananda, he was giving up the body. And as usual, in Vrindavan, when people pass away, we just offer him to the Yamuna. As in Kashi, we offer it to Ganges. So similarly here we used to do. So thus, the great tortoise brothers, they used to have a good, nice meal, and only after half an hour there will be bones only. So like that. So that's how the great 5 Mahapurushas I met in that way. And finally, now I come to a little of Swami, a little of Swami Yoganandaji Maharaj. All the other time was taken by other holy gossip. So this one also we can hear a little. Girish Ghosh once asked Yoganandaji, what is there to see in Swami Vivekananda? He is a great revealed sadhu, he is an example, he is a great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. Girish Ghosh was telling to Swami Yoganandaji, see me. If you want to see Thakur's miracle, look at me. What I was and what I am. I was a wreck, and see now, by his grace. Naturally, of course, Vivekananda is a great sage, and he came with the noble tendencies and all that. But the example, I was a wreck and such a rejected fellow, now I have become, see how a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. That is what happens in the case of when Sri Ramakrishna blesses. Swami Yogananda suffered from a false sense of superiority due to his aristocratic upbringing and thought too highly of his own intelligence. At last, he overcame these different difficulties by spiritual practice and Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna's grace. Hence, a role model for thousands was put forth in the society by Sri Ramakrishna, by this a little sort of high ranks, who was thinking himself to be too noble and things like that. He transformed himself to a spiritual child of Sri Ramakrishna. In the nearby village, people called Ramakrishna as a crazy fellow. But Yogananda had read good about him, good report about him as presented by Keshav Chandra Sen of Brahma Samaj. Yogananda took Sri Ramakrishna to be, once took him to be a gardener and asked him, he didn't know who he was. He was looking for Ramakrishna, but Ramakrishna was plucking flowers. He thought this is a gardener. Asked for a flower. Same man giving a discourse later on to the other devotees. Yogananda was standing outside, and then he decided, by hearing and being with Ramakrishna, never to marry. Went to Kanpur, living in uncle's residence, and began to practice spiritual practices and meditation and all that. And what he did not want to do, marriage also took place by mother's request. Married, went to Sri Ramakrishna. If you want to stay as a grahastha, you may marry a lakh times, it doesn't matter. Only thing is, you bring your wife. I will just bless her that she will have never any desire for married life. If you have the grace of the Guru, you may marry again and again 100,000 times, nothing will happen if Guru's grace is there on you. It does not matter as long as grace of your Gurudev is there. And Ramakrishna says, of course, if the grace is there from here means from him. Or want to be a sadhu, if you are a married person and you want to be a sadhu, bring your wife. I eat up her maya and attachment. Sri Ramakrishna told. Sri Ramakrishna told him like that. So, finally when Ramakrishna told like that, gave up the house, came to Sri Ramakrishna, began to sleep in Sri Ramakrishna's room. At midnight, the other bed empty. Why goes out? Why? I'm sorry, Swami Yogananda goes out. Sri Ramakrishna said, watch me, what happens at night, the empty bed is filled up by whom and all that. Sadhu, look at the sadhu daytime, look at the sadhu at night also. So like that. Sri Ramakrishna said to watch a sadhu day and night, to get over lust. Chant if you want to get over the sex feelings always. Just Harinam, go on repeating day and night. The Swami, the great Swami Shantanandaji, who happened to be Holy Mother's disciple again, as I told you to him earlier, 18 hours of a day he used to repeat mantra. And thus he had the Omkara Siddhi. And thus he became a Brahmavit Purusha and thus divinely inspired. So in that way, he began to watch Sri Ramakrishna day and night, and thus finally came to know that he is a great Brahmavit Purusha, and Sri Ramakrishna blessed him with further blessings and became a great sadhu and one of the exemplary devotees who became Holy Mother's great sevak. And thus, by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, he became completely absorbed in the divine peace and joy that passeth all understanding. As Christ says, he was blessed by Sri Ramakrishna, and thus, before he passed away, he had that highest attainment. So like that, in short, we had the chance of going through Sri Yoganandaji's life, and he was so much blessed by Holy Mother, as during her last days he was serving her with so much of devotion, love and devotion. So, this in short is the life of Swami Yoganandaji Maharaj, and it is just 5:30. And if you want more about this, as you know, there are the two more great books which you, if you have not read, please try to read. First, the life of the direct disciples, the 16 direct disciples headed by Swami Vivekananda, Brahmananda, Yogananda, others, etc. That is called God lived with them. Is it not? God lived with them. So that is about all these monks who lived with Sri Ramakrishna and got inspired. And the next one is about the household disciples. Nistarini Ghosh, you must have heard. She was a great devotee of Sri Ramachandra. Her chosen deity was Ramachandra. So, she was so devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. One day she came and told, please bless me, I want to have my chosen deity revealing itself by your grace. Her chosen deity was Sri Ramachandra. So, Sri Ramakrishna told, yes, that can be done, it is all right. But you have to do one thing. What is that? In that Dakshineshwar temple at that time, a cat and a kitten were there, the cat taking the kitten here and there as usual to different corners of the buildings there. And the servants beating it everywhere. That kitten was tired, and the cat was tired with the kitten. What to do? Finally it came to Ramakrishna's room. The cat with the kitten. And Ramakrishna knew the whole story as soon as he saw the cat and the kitten. He told, okay, you stay here. Cat and the kitten stayed there, and when Nistarani Ghosh was there, this cat and kitten were there. Mother, you have to do one thing. Take this cat and kitten to your house. Look after them. You will have the darshan of your Ishtadevata. Thus, she immediately agreed. She took the cat and the kitten, began to serve, and one day while doing puja, she had the darshan of Sri Ramachandra. She was so happy, did pranam, and then looked up. There is no Ramachandra, that's Sri Ramakrishna there. That also Sri Ramakrishna showed. Same Ramachandra and Ramakrishna, same Krishna, it is all the same. In this yuga, he is like Sri Ramakrishna. It's like that. They are very beautiful stories. Those of you who have not read, please try to read both of them. You will be inspired with more love and devotion to spiritual life by the example of Sri Ramakrishna. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namo namaha yatha agner dahika shakti Ramakrishne sthitaya sarva vidya swarupam tam sharadam pranamamyaham paratatve sadalino Ramakrishna samajnaya yo dharmastapanarato viresham tam namamyaham. Hari Om Tassas Jai Ramakrishna Jai Ramakrishna Jai Maharaj Ramakrishna.